Welcome to True Crime with Strategic Eyes.
Strategic back again. You guys have no idea what led up to this live show. Like, I was rushing like a crazy person, man. And good thing I'm not too late, just 2 minutes late. But anyway, welcome to True Crime Strategic, guys. Hope you guys had a great day today. I am excited. But I'm not just excited about the show that we're going to do today, which I think is going to be very informative because we have very important questions we need to ask as like, what is going on with these supposed confessions? Like, are they real or are they not? We got a lot to go through. But I'm excited because today is day 5, baby. I don't have work tomorrow. I get to relax. I'm going to talk to the members only to tell you about the crazy day I had today. We probably could put on the members and the Patreon. Today was an emotionally draining day, but it's not about me. We'll talk about it on the members and the Patreon. But it was a very sad day when it came to work because I had to do something that really broke my heart. But it is what it is. It's part of the job. It is what it is, ladies and gentlemen. But anyway, I'm happy to be with you guys because whether you believe it or you know it or not, for those of you who are new here, this is my therapy. This is my decompression from my day job. This is the best part of my day other than playing with my kids. And so I really appreciate all you guys who are joining me today. I really appreciate all the support that we're getting. I really appreciate everything that comes with this journey. Ladies and gentlemen, give it one more cheer. All right, that one's a little late. We'll work on it. I like it snappy. All right, first of all, we're civilized, so we're going to start this live stream by saying thank you all for joining me today. You guys are amazing. We're also going to ask you, please hit that like button and support the channel. We're trying to get to 100,000 subscribers by the end of the year. We're giving ourselves a couple of months. You know, it is what it is, slow motion. But help us on that journey by simply not giving us any money, not giving us super chat. Wow! Just hit the like button. Of course, you want to support the channel, we appreciate that. But all we're asking is you hit that like button so we can get into the algorithm and the show can grow and reach a wider audience. That's all we're asking from you, ladies and gentlemen. We do appreciate everybody who supports the channel in any way that you can. All right, so here we go, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to jump right into this. Okay, so behind me is Brian Entin. Brian Entin, I knew I seen him some places, and I was like, you've seen this guy for years. For years, I've seen this guy. We've all seen this guy for years. This guy is a serious newsman who's been covering true crime for a very long time on various different large multimedia conglomerate channels. He's a well-known guy. Brian Entin came out and he said that he had information nobody else had, ladies and gentlemen. And that information was that Jake Haro confessed not once, but twice to killing his son. He confessed it in 2 different ways. The first way was he rolled over on Emmanuel. Emmanuel suffocated because of his weight. He felt bad about it, as we'd hope he would be. He buried Emmanuel on I-60, and that's the first confession. The second confession was that he ended Emmanuel, and that Emmanuel was discarded in the trash, and now the likelihood of him being found is 0 because apparently, allegedly, the waste disposal company has informed the police that they don't know what part of the landfill that dump was placed in, so it'd be almost impossible to know where to dig and to find it. Of course, you can't bring dogs to a landfill because there's so many different smells. As unique and amazing as dog noses are, they can't sift through it. All right, it's reasonable. All right. But then we heard the press conference, ladies and gentlemen. And in the press conference, the news media, it was hard for us to hear, but even Brian, when he talks about it on different media platforms, even he acknowledges that news reporters specifically asked the district attorney of that county, Riverside County, that district attorney, did Jake or Rebecca, for that matter, give any confessions? And the answer was no. There was no confessions. Well, this one's getting a little bit crazy because I'm going to play you what Brian has to say, but then there's a monkey in the wrench because I'm inclined to believe Brian, to be honest with you. You know, you guys know how I think. I don't trust these politicians. I'm inclined to believe Brian, but then, guys, there's a monkey in the wrench. Is that how you say it? Monkey in the wrench? The wrench is the monkey. There's a wrench in the gears. I don't know. You know what I'm saying, man. I'm just from Harlem. Cut me some slack. All right, I went to St. John's. Not Harvard, okay? Then I went to another school after that, all right? That's where I got my degree from. All right, come on, listen. Okay. What makes this complicated, ladies and gentlemen, is that another reporter, another respected reporter, the reporter who went and did the interview with Jake and got us Jake's jailhouse interview, which we broke on his channel last night. We were the first ones to break it on the channel last night. And guess what YouTube did? They demonetized the show. We broke it last night. The article that this reporter dropped last night, we broke it, where Jake talks about his side of the story. He doesn't make any admissions, but he does give us some insight into how his mind works. Well, it's also the same reporter that spoke to Rebecca as well. That reporter saying he doesn't believe Mr. Brian Entin. So we got two reporters going against each other. We're not starting any fights here. Everything's professional. Everybody has their professional opinion. That reporter has no problem with Brian Entin. We're not trying to insinuate that on this channel. And I'm sure Brian Entin has no problem with that reporter. But we have two reporters and a district attorney that's saying, and Jake Haro, who's saying Brian Entin is lying. Or let's not use that L word. That's a very salacious word. Brian Entin is operating in good faith, we believe. But at least he's misinformed. So we got the perp, we got the journalist who's just like Brian Entin, another respected journalist who actually spoke to Jake. So remember, information was given to Brian Entin by sources. This journalist actually spoke to Jake, actually spoke to Rebecca. He's saying, I don't believe Brian. That never happened. And then we have a district attorney, which, I mean, you can believe whatever you want. I don't trust these politicians, so I'm inclined to be on the side of Brian when it's just him against the district attorney. Well, that district attorney is saying, don't believe Brian. We got no confessions. This is getting really complicated, ladies and gentlemen, but I'm going to play all the facts for you, and you guys figure it out for yourself. I'm not here to think for you. I'm not here to think for you. You're here to think for yourself. All I'm trying to do is bring you the relevant information. So once again, guys, we're about to jump into this. We're going to ask you one last time before we get into this. Probably a little bit later, we'll ask you again. Please make sure you hit that like button and support the channel. And if you're not subscribed, subscribe now. All right, let's get to it. This is Brian's response to the district attorney saying that his facts are not accurate. Let's listen to it.
So I'm in Minneapolis covering the awful church shooting, but I wanted to get on here for a second and just clear something up. So a lot of you have been messaging or putting in the comments about my story involving what Jake Haro said to informants within the jail as part of what's known as a Perkins operation, which I explained in my latest video. And the district attorney today at the press conference said there was no confession. So I just want you guys to know that I am standing by my reporting. If you don't know what I'm talking about, watch my latest YouTube video. I talked to my sources again. And if you guys know, I mean, I know I have a lot of new followers on YouTube, but if you guys who know me know how seriously I take this job and how seriously I take reporting factual information. And if I ever did make a mistake, I would immediately own up to it. But I am standing by my reporting. And I realized that the district attorney said that there was no confession.
So right now he's saying 10 toes down. 10 toes down, as they say in New York. Do anybody else say that? 10 toes down. I'm standing by my reporting. I'm not retracting anything. What I'm saying is the truth. Hashtag facts. That's what Brian is saying, but let's keep going.
From Jake Haro, baby Emmanuel's dad, but I don't know what his definition legally of a confession is. That may be different, you know, but I'm standing by everything that I reported in my video from yesterday about the Perkins operation, about the informant, about that happening in the jail, and about what Jake Haro said.
All right, so I want to give you kind of both sides, right? If Brian is correct, it makes sense because we saw Jake on the side of the road cooperating. Now, the DA said we're getting some cooperation, but we didn't get a confession. So the DA is saying, well, he's on the side of the road with deputies because he's cooperating a little bit. but a little bit of cooperation does not necessarily equal a confession. But that kind of gives a lot of credit to what Brian is saying, because we saw Jake out of the jail on the side of the road. On the other hand, Jake has a red prison jumpsuit on. And a red prison jumpsuit means protected custody, which means if he's in protected custody and so he's going to have his own cell, just like Stephen Stearns had his own cell in Florida when he was facing trial for Madeline Soto, how is it that we're getting other inmates in there to be having these candid conversations? Secondly, we know that Jake has a history of abusing vulnerable people. I said it that way because of YouTube, guys. They started to demonetize shows again, all right? I don't know if they back on their stuff, so we trying to be careful to not make it easy for them, right? We don't. We'll say the names. He had a history of abusing Carolina, right? AKA Promise baby, Promise Faith. They called him a serial abuser, right? Something to that effect. I'm paraphrasing. He's been through the criminal justice system multiple times. He's been arrested multiple times. He's been arrested for drugs, for guns, for assault on police officers, and the horrible things he did to Promise. Why would he be dumb enough to just squeal and spill the beans to an informant in the jail? Furthermore, the guy got an attorney relatively quickly. When they were questioning his wife, he got an attorney. In fact, he made sure that his wife represented him and nobody else. Why would he then talk to police while having an attorney? Remember, he just now lost that attorney when he got arrested and arraigned. He had an attorney prior to that. Why would he now just sign all kinds of waivers? Because when you got an attorney, you're willing to talk without your attorney, because we know that his attorney would never agree for him to give a statement to police. There's no attorney on this green earth that would say, yes, give them a confession of any sort. So we know that that statement would have had to have made, because remember, it's two statements. One was to the informant cop, the undercover cop. The other one was just straight to police upon questioning. Why would any attorney ever tell their client to give any type of confession? It never happens. That's like a constant. Just like how, God willing, most likely the sun will rise tomorrow. And how do we know that? Because it's rising somewhere on this earth right now. And somebody watching this show somewhere in this world is also watching the sunrise right now. That's a constant until like maybe 6 billion years from now. Then it'll go poof and it won't be a constant anymore. No attorney would say give a confession. So that means he gave that confession against the advice of his attorney and most likely without his attorney present. So then he would have to sign waivers to police. He'd have to re-Mirandize him. He'd have to go on the record and say, I have an attorney, but I'm choosing to waive my attorney being here, and I want to talk to you without an attorney and give you a confession. For what? For what? I don't know. If it was just the informant conversation, I'm like, But when you mix in two confessions and one was just with police, I don't know, man. But I don't know. I'm trying to figure this out myself, guys. I'm not telling you what to think. I'm only giving you the facts. Let's keep going.
And I have quadruple confirmed with my sources. So, yeah, I just wanted to address that. And I just wanted to tell, for those of my new followers, like, I'm not just some guy who's just going to like put out information without being very, very careful about it. And if I ever do.
This has been sitting here for like 24 hours. Ugh. Oh, I won't forget that one. That mistake. Let's keep going. Sorry.
You make a mistake. And yes, of course, I've made mistakes before. I will immediately tell everyone I made a mistake. But I do everything I can to make sure that what I'm reporting is accurate and is double and triple and quadruple checked, and I do not go with sources that I don't trust. And so I'm standing by my reporting. So just wanted you guys to know that. All right, see you guys.
All right, so we appreciate that, man. That's his take on that. So let's go. Okay, hold on here. Before I go to the rebuttals and all that other stuff, I do want to play an additional video he did. so we could really
I've learned through.
All right, so here we go. We could get a grasp of what he's saying. I want to make sure that his position is clear. I want to be very fair to him before I start going into what other people are saying, all right? Because once again, you know, we don't know if he's right or wrong. And the last thing we want to do is assume that he's wrong. We don't know who's telling us the truth. And when I say let's not use the word truth and lies. And I'm going to try my best to not make that mistake. I might make the mistake, but I'm going to try my best not to make that mistake, because it's not about who's telling the truth and who's not. It's about who's accurate. Okay, the only person who might be lying is the possibility that the DA, because the DA knows whether a Perkins operation was done. He knows whether there were multiple confessions. He knows this stuff. He has that information. So if he's telling us no, it wasn't done, then he's the one who's actually lying and deceiving us. On the other hand, Brian is reporting, and he's relying off of sources. He did not personally interview Jake or Rebecca. So he's relying off of his sources. So he is basically acting in good faith. So if he's not accurate, or he was fed inaccurate information, it's really not his fault. Because that's what reporters do most of the time. They're going off of what other people are telling them who are closer to the situation. So I don't want to use the words like truthful and lies, because truthfulness and lying is not, it has nothing to do with Brian Entin. We're just trying to find out if the information is accurate. That's what we're trying to find out. So let's keep going.
Sources that Jake Haro, baby Emmanuel's father, told police that he accidentally rolled over in bed. This is what sources are telling me, and accidentally killed baby Emmanuel, and then buried.
Now, somebody said real quick, I heard this before. That's the only reason why I'm stopping this to address this, and I'm gonna start over from the beginning because I apologize for stopping. People said that the DA didn't know about the fire. Well, all reporting that I have seen on that fire is that it's not connected to the Haros. There's no connection between the fire and the Haros from what I'm understanding. So if I'm the DA and I'm working this case, what do I care about that fire? And maybe the police didn't even tell them about the fire because it's not relevant to the case. But when you're prosecuting somebody, you're getting everything that's in that case file, right? If it's not in the case file, it's not there because the prosecutor's not out there investigating the case. So take this from a detective. How it works is we do the investigation, we give them the case file. Nowadays, it's not in a file, it's digital, right? So we email them. Well, probably some of these, you know, small towns and backwoods of America probably still use paper files, but we use electronic files, right? So when I'm done, I go down to my case in my case logging application and I click send to DA. And then I send it to the DA, and the DA gets an email with this entire packet of all of my notes, all the evidence that I've scanned in, the videos that I've uploaded, and all that stuff. All that stuff is in there. In fact, they don't even want hard copies. They just want just the digital is good enough. The scanned stuff is good enough. You don't ever have to present them with hard copies, unless, of course, it's of evidentiary value. Like a confession note, you would take that as evidence. You'd scan it. So it's in your case photo, but you also take that as evidence, and then you put it in evidence, and then they'll be able to take it and show it to the jury. But everything else, medical records, all that stuff, if you get originals, you're not holding on to those. You're just scanning them in and sending them to the DA. That's how that works, right? So so we know the fire happened, but this DA is not there. There's fires that happen every single day. This DA is in their office in the county, right? If that's not in the case file that is connected to the Haro's case, he doesn't care about it, and he doesn't even know about it, or maybe he's not really thinking about it. So I'm not trying to burst anybody's bubble, but unless you guys have information I don't have, and it's not to knock anybody, you guys know I use you guys in the chat as helping me with this show, right? So it's never personal when I call somebody out who says something in the chat. It's all love. From my understanding, unless you guys have information I don't have, there is no connection between the fire that happened few houses away from the Haros and the Haros themselves, okay? Let's keep going. Let's start it from the beginning.
So I've learned through sources that Jake Haro, baby Emmanuel's father, told police that he accidentally rolled over in bed. This is what sources are telling me, and accidentally killed baby Emmanuel, and then buried baby Emmanuel in a place so that he could go there to grieve him, which obviously made no sense. But when you think back to the weekend, Ashley, when
Does that make sense?
Police were out searching with Jake Haro in the jumpsuit. They had him out there. Very unusual to see that right along the freeway there in that area. It lines up with the story from my sources that he had indicated, and he's had a couple of stories, which I'll get into, but with this story that he had indicated to police that he buried baby Emmanuel after accidentally killing him.
So the other question I have for you is the second story. The first story was he tells the police he's rolled over on the baby and buries the baby's body out on, near the highway, clearly leading to those pictures. But then there's a second version of Jake Haro speaking in jail. What did you learn about this?
Yeah, and this is very interesting. So sources tell me that there was something called a Perkins operation, which is not unusual in California. And this is when either an undercover police officer or not a police officer, but an informant basically pretends to be an inmate in the jail to get information out of someone who is in custody. And I am told that there was a Perkins operation involving Jake Haro. And as a result of that operation, they got information, the detectives, that Jake Haro had killed baby Emmanuel and had put, and it's awful to say, I mean, it's just awful, but had put baby Emmanuel into a trash can.
Yeah, doesn't this guy Jake have a really smug face? He does have like one of those faces you just want to, like so smug. Look at that bottom lip, how it just tucks up like. And what makes it worse is like he played football, so he's a really big guy. And to see such a big guy cause harm on something so innocent, it really grinds my wheels, man. And it grinds my gears. I'm terrible with sayings. I always say them backwards. Whatever. It pisses me off, man. Just talk like strategic. It pisses me off. It really pisses me off. This guy is really, and I know it's off topic. I know Brian is talking about confessions and all that, and we're here for that. But just thinking about what he did to his own son, man. Listen, I used to not believe in capital punishment, but as we've explored on this show over the last few years, it's people like this guy, like him, Stephen Stearns, Jarvis Butts from the Naziah Harris case. Please go check out the Naziah Harris case. My reporting on that case. That girl deserves to have her voice heard. Naziah Harris, Naziah Harris, Naziah Harris. Say her name. It's people like them that change my mind about capital punishment. Some people don't care about our rules. They don't care about our morality. They don't care. They will never care. They can't be rehabilitated. There's only one thing you could humanely do to pure evil people, and that is put them to bed. Let's keep going. I apologize, Brian.
So I want to play something from the district attorney in this case, speaking to reporters earlier about the fact that they have a pretty strong idea of where they think baby Emmanuel is. Let's play that.
We have a pretty strong indication of where the remains of baby Emmanuel are. That investigation is ongoing at this time. The filing in this case reflects our belief that baby Emmanuel was abused, a victim of child abuse over time, and that eventually, because of that abuse, he succumbed to those injuries.
So two questions there. We have a strong indication of where the remains of baby Emmanuel are. How does that square with this story that police say Jake Haro told to, the plant in the jail that I killed the baby and threw the baby in a trash can?
Yeah, I mean, look, they must have some other information, because when they're saying that there's been a history of abuse, whether it's information from neighbors or from, who knows, videos or phones or pictures or whatever, where they have now put together a timeline that baby Emmanuel was abused over time. But it's also interesting, Ashley, that at that press conference, the DA was specifically asked, did you get a confession out of Jake?
All right, I'm stopping it here just to get your attention. We're going to go back. Let's go back to 3:18. 3:15. This is where Brian addresses the county district attorney. This is his rebuttal to the district attorney. Let's keep going.
Conference, the DA was specifically asked, did you get a confession out of Jake Haro? And he said no. And he almost seemed mad about it, that they were asking about it. And he said no, which would conflict, you would think, with my reporting. And I just want to tell you, I've double, triple, quadruple checked. I stand by my reporting. I think we're down to semantics here. And, you know, in the legal world, a confession, you know, there's a very, very strict definition of that. And I don't know what the DA's definition of confession is when it comes to what he would want it to be in a court of law, but I stand by my reporting when it comes to the Perkins operation and what resulted from that operation, Ashley.
All right, so 10 toes down again. He's saying, I'm not backing down. I double, triple, quadruple checked my sources. This is what happened. I'm 100% certain. So it's kind of like he's putting his reputation on it. Like, I would, if I was, listen, he probably is he's way more successful at broadcasting than me, but I would never double down like that. This guy, he must really be confident in what he's saying, because I would never double down like that, because your audience doesn't need you to double down like that. You know, if it was a mistake, you'll be able to come back and just say, hey, listen, I made a mistake. I apologize. I got this information from a source that I believe to be very credible, and it turned out that it's not true. Or I'm right. You know, it is what it is. The DA lied to you guys. It's now been proven in time that I was right. It is what it is. But that's real serious, the way he's doubling down. He's literally staking his reputation on this. So I like him. I've seen him around for a very long time. I hope that he's 100% right, you know, and I want to believe him. I really do, because I don't want to believe no DA. The problem is what we're about to watch now. So let me just give it 2 more seconds and I'll play the other video, and we're going to listen. Aki says, I didn't listen to it because I wanted to react to it raw. Aki says that other reporter basically says he doesn't believe what Brian is saying. I hope Aki's not going to have me chasing my own tail like, I'm sorry, Aki. My source, Aki. She's a liar. Anyway, let's let him go for 2 more seconds. We'll start the other video. I'm going to go off screen for 2 seconds so I can run and actually get me something to drink, because I actually drank some old beverage that left a nasty taste in my mouth. So I got to run and grab something to drink, and then we're going to come back and we're going to get to where that reporter now talks about how he feels about disinformation.
It's hard to believe that they can make the statement, we believe that he was subject to abuse over time, and because of that abuse, he succumbed to his injuries. Does anybody know how they can say that, how they know, or how they can profess to know that this baby had been injured many times and thus died from all that sort of collection of injuries?
No, I don't know the answer to that. I don't know. There may be more information that they were able to obtain from the operation in the jail that I just don't know about. Or, like I said, it's possible that it seems like they've been hard at work, these investigators. I mean, behind the scenes, they may have gotten evidence, again, neighbors, pictures, maybe there's medical records. I'm not sure, but they were very clear in their latest release that they believe that there's evidence of long-term abuse.
So now, if they're doing the Perkins operation on Jake Haro, did they do the same thing on Rebecca Haro in her jail cell?
Yes, that is what my sources say, that there was another Perkins operation for the mom, but a different outcome. I am told that she has stuck to the same story since the beginning, that there was a kidnapping, that her husband, Jake Haro, would never do anything wrong, that he was a good father, and she hasn't changed her story from what I've been told.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe.
Right, so now let's go over to this next video real quick. I believe this is it right here. I'm gonna let it play real quick. I got the timestamp, but I'm just gonna let it play from the beginning very quickly so I can run and grab that drink. Big shout out to Long Crime. First of all, News Nation is where we got that last interview. First of all, let me give some shout outs just to make sure that I'm giving people proper credit for stuff. The first one was Brian Entin's personal YouTube page where he's doing his show. So definitely go and subscribe if you want to hear more of his coverage on these cases. He's a mainstream guy, so it's a mainstream media guy who's breaking into the true crime space, doing his own show. The next video that we watched was News Nation. So it's Brian Entin's page right here. Unfortunately, let me see if I bring it over right here. That's Brian Entin's page. And okay. And the next one that we played was News Nation. I believe that was Ashley Banfield, if I'm not mistaken. That was News Nation. And now we're going to go on over to Law and Crime. All right. So let's get that going.
Jake Haro is the dad now charged with murder alongside his wife Rebecca. Their 7-month-old son Emmanuel is still missing, and law enforcement say he's dead. They didn't say anything in their brief court appearance this week as you look at this video from KTLA, but Jake is now speaking from jail.
Well, his interview was different from the one I did with Rebecca, in that Rebecca stuck with the account that she was a victim of a mugging, that baby Emmanuel was kidnapped. And Jake did not say that.
I just spoke to the reporter who met face-to-face in jail with Jake Haro. What Haro said about accusations he abused Emmanuel to death, and how Jake's story compares to Rebecca's story, who still seems to claim that she was attacked and the baby was kidnapped. We're on the case, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Chris Stewart. I'll get to my conversation.
All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to flip ahead to the part of the interview that's relevant to this case. Let's do it. All right, we'll start here at 11:30. Boom, let's do it. So this is the reporter that actually did the interview with Jake and Rebecca. All right, that all these other agencies are basically purchasing, you know how they do, like AP and stuff like that. They're basically purchasing his interview so they can reprint it in their art, their newspapers and magazines, etc. websites. So here we go. Let's listen.
He really didn't offer much about, the search, resuming the search.
Let me go back a little bit more.
Did he give any nugget whatsoever that stood out to you as far as what we've heard? He was on TV saying, please bring my son home, and then now he's in jail. Did he say anything that kind of stood out to you that kind of pieced together what he might think happens, or no? Obviously, he knows what happened.
Yeah, obviously these are, he acknowledged that these are very serious charges. He acknowledged the people that have been calling for his hide, the people on social media. He really didn't offer much about, the search, resuming the search. We've gone back and forth. He was cooperating. He was not cooperating, depending on who you talk to. And he said he was fully cooperating. And that dovetails to something that the San Bernardino County Sheriff Shannon Dykus said at the news conference, that they had been receiving cooperation from suspects. So whether that included Jake Haro saying, I buried the baby out by the freeway, I don't know. Jake wouldn't address how he wound up with the investigators out in the Badlands there, as they're called, on that brushy hillside. It seems like there's something there that he's not saying, and it's more than just, well, Emmanuel was kidnapped, but I can't jump that far ahead.
Yeah, because it's yesterday you have the big report comes out from News Nation, and then there's this nonprofit that had sent us a note, the Uvalde Foundation for Kids, which were involved in the search early, then they weren't. And then, both, it seemed very similar, that there was this jailhouse confession, they said. The informant, a Perkins informant, which I had never heard of, who, according to the report, they go in, they sit with Jake Haro. It's actually a law enforcement officer. And he spills it to him saying, the report said that Jake had rolled over on Emmanuel. That's how he died. And then they put Emmanuel's body in the trash. Law enforcement has pushed back on that and said that that is just not true. Was there anything in your conversation with him and in covering this story that stood out to you when that first started to make headlines yesterday?
Yeah, I was unaware of those reports at the time I spoke uh, with Jake. But looking at the reports, one was that, supposedly that Jake had, they had killed Emmanuel and they put him in the trash. And the other one on that show from the same person was that Jake had buried Emmanuel out in a rural area.
Well, first of all, he's talking about Brian Hinton right now. And Entin, excuse me, I keep calling him Hinton. Entin. He's talking about Brian right now. Well, okay, well, let's bring it back a little bit. Let's feel that energy. I like feeling people's energy, feeling them out. Let's feel his energy, okay? This is a reporter. He's a reporter. He's a print reporter. All right. I'm not saying it like he's better than Brian Entin. I'm just saying this guy's a reporter. Let's feel his energy right now.
Looking at the reports, one was that, supposedly that Jake had, they had killed Emmanuel and they put him in the trash. And the other one on that show from the same person was that Jake had buried Emmanuel out in a rural area. And the reporter on that said he double-checked, triple-checked with his sources, and he believed both accounts to be true. But the odd thing is both can't be true. It has to be one or the other. And now law enforcement is saying neither of them are correct. So, it comes back to when people use unidentified sources for information, you really need to think hard about whether that's true. I mean, we at the Southern California News Group are very, very, very reluctant to use anonymous sources unless we know that the person is in a direct position to know, and it's something that we might be able to confirm.
Yo, he throwing straight shade at Brian Entin. He's throwing crazy shade at Brian Entin. I mean, if there's a way of saying F you with a smile, he just invented it, okay? He's throwing shade at Brian Entin. Let's bring it back just a second.
At the Southern California News Group are very, very, very reluctant to use anonymous sources unless we know that the person is in a direct position to know, and it's something that we might be able to confirm later on. So it's hard for people, as you've seen with all the vloggers and bloggers and amateur online sleuths and so forth, putting forward their own theories about what's happening, and private people trying to organize search parties. It's very difficult for the public to be patient and wait for law enforcement to do their job and to get to the bottom of the things, which they eventually will. So it's just they want answers right away. They want them right now, and then they start making stuff up when they don't get the immediate answers they want. And when we hear from law enforcement about what they say happened, there's still going to be people who won't believe it, that they'll, facts are probably going to be too boring for them, and some fancy theory is going to be a little bit more exciting and believable for them. So we try to be as responsible as we can on these sorts of things.
Yeah, and I know I appreciate that, just being, not in California, and you're trying to figure, this story is played out on social media. As we've talked, so in so many ways that a lot of stories haven't in the past. It was interesting that Jake said that Rebecca was innocent, that he's like standing by his wife, and yet their stories are somewhat different. What did he say about his wife?
He said that she's a beautiful woman and would never hurt a child, and she loved her children. And that's what Rebecca said about Jake. Great father, great husband, would never hurt his kids. And right now, obviously, the district attorney's office is saying something completely different. When
hold on, I gotta stop it because YouTube told me I have to do this, so please don't get upset with me. All right, we have 1,100 people watching this live stream right now. It's a lot of people, a lot of strangers coming together to watch this show. We appreciate you. We only have 567 likes. Please do me a favor and hit that like button. Support the channel. We're trying to get into the algorithm. If you guys don't hit the like button, nobody else sees it but you guys. And I don't want to be your dirty little secret. Please share me with the world. Hit that like button. All right, let's keep going.
Jake said Rebecca is innocent. That sort of said to me that he had some information that he knew what happened with Emmanuel, and that perhaps she had no part of what actually happened. But he was not willing to say what really did happen. So,
I mean, if he did give these confessions already, what would be the point in not divulging it to the reporter? Because you already gave the confession. I just don't know. Listen, I'm telling you guys, I'm not on anybody's side. Like I said, what Brian Entin said kind of makes sense when we talk about seeing Jake on the side of the road. I'm inclined not to believe a DA who's elected in Southern California in a place where they already gave Jake a second chance and allowed him to take the life of Emmanuel. But now you have another reporter who's saying, listen, I didn't hear that when I spoke to Jake, and I don't believe it. So I don't know who to believe. I don't know who to believe. And I don't just believe people. I trust and I verify. So I don't think that the solution for this is going to come, at least for me and the people who think like me, I don't think the solution is going to come anytime soon. I think we have to wait for the facts to come out till the discovery happens and we start getting these court documents, we start seeing confessions and stuff like that. Because I'm not believing anybody. I'm not believing this guy with the crazy mustache that probably gets every hamburger he eats in his mustache. I'm not believing Jake with his snazzy hair. You know, it's like bleach blonde and it's like perfect, like a wave, like a California beach wave. I'm not believing him, and no, I'm not jealous because I'm bald. He does have very interesting, nice hair. I don't believe him. I don't believe the DA who's very rude to YouTubers, who's disrespecting us, saying that we're pretty much in the way and we need to stay in our lane. And then he told the Latera guy, the on the terror guy, to go get some rest. How condescending is that? He's like, oh, go take a nap. Go get some rest. I don't believe that guy either. That guy looked like Governor Newsom too. Now I'm not talking politics. I'm just saying, like, they do look similar. He looked like he was the brother of Governor Newsom. Like they were little fucking doppelgangers or something like that. Bottom line is, I don't trust. It's not even trust. I don't believe any of these people until I can trust and verify, all right? I don't believe that any of them are misleading me. I don't have no evidence that the Governor Newsom-looking DA guy, I have no evidence he's not being honest, so I'm not going to call him a liar. No evidence that this guy is not being honest, so I'm not going to call him a liar. No evidence that Brian, whatever his name is, Brian is being dishonest, so I'm not going to call him a liar. I need to trust and verify because I don't know what's the truth, to be honest with you.
but again, he did not go back to the kidnapping claim, which he easily could have.
What do you make of and they're the only ones who know, right? But you are you're probably the only person who's spoken to both of them since that first TV interview that they did, where she's making, sticking to the storyline that she gave, that this assault happened, that police say didn't. And then he seems like to your point, has like some information. Like, what do you make of the differences in their stories and what they told you?
Well, for one thing, this tells me that the sheriff's department has done its job and has kept the Haros from each other. They're in different jails. When they were in court the other day, Rebecca was seated in the jury box on the far right side of the room, and Jake was seated in a chair near the where the inmates come in and out, those who are in custody, on the far side of the room. And Jake said, they've been told not to talk with each other. So very definitely, they have not been.
So, all right. I just want to address why this is such an important part of this case, because somebody said there's a little bit of a distraction, and I hear you, because when we get all these different statements, it then becomes a little theatrical, right? Like it becomes entertainment, like the WWF or something, or WWE, like oh Jake the Snake versus Governor Newsom clone DA guy. I hear you, but this really is a very important discussion that we're having. And the reason why it's so important is because there aren't a lot of, there isn't much evidence that we know of, ladies and gentlemen. There isn't much evidence that we know of, and they haven't found the body to our knowledge. I'm pretty sure if they did find a body, we would know, but I would just say, just to be safe, to our knowledge. So if you don't have a body, you don't know the manner of death, the cause of death. So if they're giving confessions, that's huge. Or if one of them is giving confessions, that's huge, because at least a party said, I did it. I did it. You don't need a body if somebody said they did it. You don't need DNA. You don't need evidence. You don't need anything. I mean, of course, you're going to try and get it. You're going to work your butt off to try and get it because you want to round out that case. But at the end of the day, you don't need it because they said that they did it. So that's why this is so important. If we had Emmanuel's body and we could tell that he had all these different things that resulted in his life ending, then that's a different story. Then, yeah, did he confess? Did he not? It does end up being semantics. If he did it, we'll see it in court. If he didn't, who cares? We got a body with all types of evidence on it that we could extract that evidence and point the finger right at the culprit who did it. But we don't have that. We don't have that. We don't have that literal smoking gun. We don't have it. And that's why this debate is so important. All right, now, just want to hit his super chat real quick before I let him continue. You guys are amazing. What do we got here? Leslie Marlene with a $4.99 super chat says, keep it up. Appreciate you. Claudia with a $5 super chat says, I think J and R are communicating through the interviews they've given and reassuring themselves not to tell on each other. Okay. That's interesting. It's possible because they do get access to TVs. It's not like you have them like in a bubble where they can't see what's happening in the outside world. Best believe that Rebecca is hearing everything that we're talking about when it comes to Jake, or at least was being put on mainstream media. Furthermore, they are allowed to talk to their family members. They're allowed to talk to their family members. So their family members are like, yo, that True Crime and Strategic guy is saying X, Y, and Z. They know about it. Oh, yo, I saw, Brian Entin on Ashley Bangfield, and she said X, Y, and Z. She said that, Jake said this. So they're talking to their relatives, most likely. They have access to speaking to their relatives, both being visit in person and via telephone. And they have access to TVs. So it's possible. And a $1.99 super chat from Janet Mason says, Brian is a good one. I hear you. Thanks for letting us know that. Let's keep going.
In communication since the arrests to make their stories align if in fact they're guilty. They obviously had a story to begin with about the kidnapping that they were sticking to, but now it seems like that's not quite the party line for both of them anymore.
Did anything stick out to you, when they entered court, assuming that that's the first time they've seen each other since their arrest, and about just how they looked at each other or any of the interactions they had?
Yeah, I didn't really, and boy, this hearing was like,
one thing that we're talking about, in terms of, I see in the chat, it's maybe, they don't want people to know what's going on because it might hurt the case. Of kind of paraphrasing what the person wrote. All these leaks are coming from law enforcement. They need to do a better job basically teaching their people how to keep things confidential. I've done many high-profile cases, and I've never had any leaks at all compared to the amount of leaks that are happening in this case. Now, I don't do homicides, so maybe homicides are way different than the type of cases that I do, which, once again, I'm not going to say because I said it in the other video and they demonetized it, so people in the chat will tell you the type of investigations I do. It starts with a R and it ends with an E, and it's got a very pronounced sound in the middle. Then you'll know the kind of investigations I do, but they're not homicides, but they certainly can be very heinous and also very violent. Those type of cases that I investigate. And I've never, ever, ever seen the amount of leaks in the cases that I've done that made the news compared to the amount of leaks that are here. I mean, you got TikTokers basically saying, I got friends inside the police department. They told me this, and I can't tell you that. I was watching it on the Rabbit Lady show the other day. She had a local TikTok lady who's basically saying like she knows everybody on the goddamn police force. Excuse my language. Shouldn't have said goddamn. Apologize for that. And like, this is crazy. You can't blame her. She's reporting. She is an amateur reporter. She's doing her job, that TikTok lady. She's reporting what she's hearing. You got to blame the police officers. You got to blame these fools who are like leaking everything out there. Really. So the buck stops with local law enforcement who can't seem to keep anything confidential in that town. Let's keep going.
3 minutes. So there wasn't a lot of time for things like that. I mean, they are instructed. You do not signal, look at, smile, wink, nod, anything like that to any other person. And they were let out separately. So I don't think that I didn't see them acknowledging each other. Rebecca was on kind of like on the side of the room, and Jake was more toward the back of the room. So they were not looking directly at each other. It would be kind of like this. And now Jake did tell me, and it's in the story. There'll be more detail in the story that's online. Is that they after they were let out of the courtroom, they went down elevators separately. They wound up sort of near each other in the holding area, and he tried to shout out to her, "I love you." And according to Jake, a deputy threw him to the floor like a rag doll. And I asked the sheriff's department if they would want to comment on the account, and they declined to do so. So obviously, sheriff's department taking it very seriously, trying to keep them apart. And so it'll be interesting to see going forward whether the attorneys, they're going to have separate attorneys, whether the attorneys work in concert, or whether one side or the other turns against the other.
Did Jake say whether, I remember he had an attorney he did a couple of interviews, and he was the same attorney from the 2023 conviction. Is he still his attorney, or
he's not his attorney for the criminal case?
Okay.
The Riverside County Public Defender's Office is representing both of them. And because the Public Defender's Office is like a law firm can't represent two clients in the same case.
Right.
So
but she's going to get representation. He'll probably explain that. I didn't hear this, but she's going to get representation. People are acting like if the public defenders don't defend her or don't defend Jake, that they go without attorney. It's not how it works. They're both indigent, or at least they're going to claim to be indigent. And it's either A, the public defender's office is going to represent one of them that they choose, and then whoever they don't choose, the county's just basically going to contract somebody else, like maybe a pro bono attorney, or like assign a local defense attorney that's certified to do these type of cases. They're going to basically force them and assign them and say, listen, or her, and say, listen, you have to represent this party. And then that's just the end of it. One way or another, they're going to have an attorney. All right, let's keep going.
Public Defender's Office, one of them will represent one of them, and then there'll be a court-appointed attorney from the private sector for the other. And go. As of this morning,
there you go. I know a little bit of stuff.
I don't know who's going to have who as their attorney.
All right. I mean, I'm loving this interview. I want to stop it and go to another video, but like I'm finding this very, very probative. But anyway, let's keep going.
And just my last question I just thought about, and this was something from the news conference yesterday, is when the district attorney was asked if he knew where Emmanuel's body was, his answer, and I'm probably not quoting it directly, was like, they have a pretty good idea of where it is. They don't know. He was clear though in saying, I'm not saying I know where it is, but I have a pretty good idea where it is. What do you make of that?
That means that, a couple of logical possibilities are that Jake said, well, I buried the body, or I threw the body out off the side of the freeway, and I'm not sure where. I would think that if you buried the body, that would be a pretty memorable event, and that he would be able to point to an exact location. That's just kind of a guess.
So check this out. If he buried the body, he 1001% would know exactly where he buried it. I'm going to tell you why he would know where he buried the body and why it's problematic that they did not find the body when they went out there with him. If, in fact, he was out there saying, I know where the body's at, I'm going to lead you to it. It's going to be conscious, but even subconsciously, but consciously, he's going to remember a landmark just in case he had to come back out there and move the body. That's why people always remember where the body's at. They always remember where the body's at because they always thinking in their head, what if I got to come back and move this body so I don't get caught? I need to know exactly where I put it. So he would put it next to a rock or, some type of landmark that's hard to move, we can say. Something that's going to be there for years. And that's where he's going to put that body. He's not going to put the body in the middle of the desert and not know where he put it. Doesn't work that way. And if it did, then he's the dumbest criminal that ever did it. And that's plausible too, but let's keep going.
Another possibility is that they do have his phone. So I'm sure that they've been pinging the cell phone records to triangulate his movements. And it's possible that they have a general area where in that rural area, it might indicate that he was in that general area for maybe an hour or something like that on a particular date when there's absolutely no reason for anyone to stop in that area unless your car breaks down. So that's why they could have a general idea of where it was. And
that's a really good point too. Very good point.
Are not aware of any other location where the investigators have searched.
Right.
Of course, they don't necessarily tell us that. This search the other day came to light because people were calling up and saying, hey, there's to the media, hey, there's 12 cop cars pulled over by the side of the road out on Highway 60, and there's a guy in a red jail jumpsuit out there. So you can't, they couldn't exactly deny what was going on.
Michael Hestrin, a lot of national attention on him now, and he's been the DA since 2014. What do you expect from him in prosecuting this case?
Well, he actually personally came out of his office to prosecute a bodiless murder case last year, and he won that. He had the advantage of incriminating text messages and surveillance images, and so he was able to win that case, I think, pretty easily. There was very little jury deliberation on that, as I recall. What evidence he has in this case, I don't know. We're waiting for a declaration written to obtain an arrest warrant to be published so that we can see what evidence he has in the case. But it seems like he might have less to work with. But I think that given that this is a national story, I don't know that Mike Hestrin is going to be holding daily news conferences or anything like that. But he's assigned an assistant district attorney, a very, very high level prosecutor to this case. So he's going to do everything he can to win it, to leave nothing to chance, to make sure that there's a conviction. And I mean, let's face it, he is an elected official. He is a politician. Uh, there's been some instances in the past where he's punted on prosecuting people, sending cases to the grand jury. In high-profile case, there was a high-profile case where an off-duty LAPD officer shot a nonverbal man and his parents in a Costco after the nonverbal man slugged him, and Mike delivered that to the grand jury, even though he could have filed charges against the officer himself. And there was
okay, because I explained on this channel that the grand jury process is available in California, and I was told, oh no, they don't do grand juries in California. They don't do that. Oh, they only do arraignments and probable cause hearings with judges. They don't do grand juries. I said, okay, all right, you know better than me. You live in California. Well, whoever said that to me, you know who you are. Here's this reporter saying that they do use the grand jury in California. But okay, let's keep going.
Some considerable grumbling at that point about, was he punting the case to the grand jury so he wouldn't have to risk losing endorsements from police unions by prosecuting a police officer. So
what he's basically saying is that the police officer, the DA had the ability, like all DAs in America have, to just file direct charges without going through a grand jury. They just arraign you on and say, listen, I'm the DA and I believe there's probable cause here to proceed with this case. But instead, he went to a grand jury probably in the hopes that the grand jury would not return a true bill, and therefore the police officer would not be charged. That's what basically he's saying. He's saying that there is a history of controversy with this DA.
But this one seems pretty straightforward. It seems politically risk-free. It could only benefit him from an aggressive prosecution, and judging by who he has assigned to the case, that's what it looks like it's going to happen.
Right. No, and that was just like an interesting part where it was some information and like a big development, but it wasn't directly, we know, and that's kind of the possibilities that.
All right, so that's the end of that. All right, boom. I want to go ahead and play a little bit of the video where he actually first dropped this information. Okay, let's do it.
Came after, I'm told, Jake Haro confessed to police that he rolled over in bed and killed the baby by accident and then buried the baby. So that is what Jake Haro told police, which is why he took police to that spot out along the freeway. This video that we have that shows him out there searching. That story, I'm told, police believe was all made up. First, they got that story. Then they decided to do the Perkins operation, I'm told, which is when they used the fake inmate and when they say they got the information that Jake Haro actually killed baby Emmanuel and put baby Emmanuel into a trash can. Meanwhile, baby Emmanuel's mother, I'm told, is still sticking to the same story. They also did a Perkins operation with her in jail, and she is standing by her story that baby Emmanuel was kidnapped. That is also, you'll remember, what she told a reporter who she talked to in jail. So many tragic twists and turns in this case. My big concern right now is that if this story is true, that police allegedly found out about through this Perkins operation, that he killed baby Emmanuel and put him into a trash can, and that it may have been up to 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks ago. Will they ever actually find baby Emmanuel? I'm joined now by Kim Dagonia, a former Riverside County prosecutor. Thank you for joining me again, Kim. I want to start with this new...
Before we get started, big shout out to Lulu. Thank you for sending us coffee. We appreciate it. The coffee link is above. Thank you so much for sending the coffee, Lulu. You are appreciated. Let's keep going.
Reporting that we have that Jake confessed to police that he rolled over the baby, killed the baby, and then buried the baby. But apparently that story was not true, right?
Yes, that is correct. My inside sources are telling me that was absolutely a lie. He made that all up to the police in order to.
So she's saying that her inside sources. So she is relaying a source that she heard from somebody to Brian. It is third party, all right? It is third party. That doesn't mean it's not true, ladies and gentlemen, but it is third party. So I don't know. It sounds like he's getting his sources from this lady, but maybe he got his own sources too, but she also has sources. So they're basically saying, hey, our sources corroborate. Maybe it'll make more sense as we listen more.
I guess, garner some type of sympathy, garner some type of a linear charge or sentence, but he made up this entire fabricated story that he was asleep with the baby Emmanuel, that he rolled over onto baby Emmanuel. When he woke up, he realized the baby was dead and he panicked. And so he went out to the Gilman Springs area that we saw him with the police the other day, and he buried the body because he wanted to have the opportunity to go back and mourn his son's death and visit him. That was his story. That's why he was out there in his chains and his shackles, allegedly trying to lead the police to the body that was never there.
Okay.
It was just part of the story.
The reason that we know that this is allegedly made up is because of this reporting that we have that he spoke to someone who he thought was an inmate in the jail, but it was actually.
All right, so you said the reporting that we have. So he has his own source. She has her own source. They might be the same source, but that's basic. They basically are independently reporting this and they're agreeing with each other. So let's keep going.
What is known as, is it a Perkins operation? So it's actually a police officer who he admitted to actually killing the baby. First of all, can you explain what a Perkins operation is?
Sure. We don't know if the person who was undercover was a police officer, if it's another, run-of-the-mill citizen of the community that was acting as an undercover inmate. We just know there was another body in the jail cell pretending to be an inmate in the same inmate clothes as Jake Haro, shackled in the same manner in which Jake Haro is. And they begin to ask questions while being recorded to Jake specifically about the charges and why he's in there, in hopes that he will admit whatever really happened to baby Emmanuel to these fake inmates in custody. And it's called a Perkins operation. These types of investigative tools have been going on for decades in agencies and district attorneys' offices across California. It's a very standard and typical investigative tool that you see the sheriff's department use in many different cities and counties across California.
Is it controversial at all doing that?
So we're stopping here because we actually talked about the Perkins operation. Somebody asked in the chat, will we ever know? The answer is absolutely. Absolutely, we will know. All right, yeah, Aki just made a good point. Basically, all right, we'll go back and to show you the point. But to finish my point, we will know because it's all documented. It's all in the case file. So if there's no Perkins operation in the case file, then it never happened. You can't do that and hide it. You can't do that and omit it. All right. If you do that and you hide it or you omit it, then the case gets dropped on appeal and this guy walks free. So if a Perkins operation was done, whether it was successful or not, it's going to be documented. And guess what? It's done. We'll know it. So if it doesn't exist in this case folder as this case proceeds, that means it never happened. All right, so let me go back real quick. Aki said a good point was made. I want to dive into it.
To these fake inmates in custody. And it's called a Perkins operation. These types of investigative tools have been going on for decades in agencies and district attorneys' offices across California. It's a very standard and typical investigative tool that you see the sheriff's department use in many different.
Buried the baby, but apparently that story was not true, right?
Yes, that is correct. My inside sources are telling me that was absolutely a lie. He made that all up to the police in order to, I guess, garner some type of sympathy, garner some type of a linear charge or sentence. But
all right, so she actually, so this is the point that Aki was making, is that she just corroborated what I said. She corroborated what I said because she said that it's not true. He didn't bury it. He didn't bury the baby and not know where the baby's at. So let me let her keep going.
He made up this entire fabricated story that he was asleep with the baby Emmanuel, that he rolled over onto baby Emmanuel. When he woke up, he realized the baby was dead and he panicked. And so he went out to the Gilman Springs area that we saw him with the police the other day, and he buried the body because he wanted to have the opportunity to go back and mourn his son's death and visit him. That was his story. That's why.
And so if that's the case, if you buried the body there so that you could go back and revisit and pay your respects to the body, then you would know where you buried the body. I went through a whole diatribe to explain to you guys that people don't just bury bodies. They always know where the body's buried. They always have a landmark that they can reference back so they can get back to the body in case they need to move it or something. You know, they think they're going to get caught. They need to move the body, whatever. Well, in this case, this guy said that he buried the body so he could go back and pay his respects to his dead child. So guess what? If that's the case, then you would know exactly where you buried the body. So if he went out to that location because he made a confession that I rolled over on the kid and I buried my baby so I could go back and pay my respects, he would know exactly up to the foot where the body is buried. They went out there, they found no body, which means that he was lying about a body being buried out there. Makes sense, man. Makes sense. All right, so we'll stop it there, and we will show one more video. And tomorrow we're going to be talking about this 11-year-old who was impregnated by her stepdad. We're going to be talking about that. I'm going to put the live in tonight. We'll probably do it like around 11 a.m. tomorrow. Wow. Sad case, but we want to get to the bottom of it. So make sure that your notifications are set to all so that you can be notified for that live and you could join in as we do a deep dive into that. The other thing I want to bring to your attention is I am not going to talk about the mass shooter in Minneapolis. It's just so much going on with that, but it is on my Patreon for free. Like I tell you guys, when I get stuff for free, I would never charge you to review it on Patreon. All you have to do is sign up for Patreon, which is free, and subscribe to my channel, and you could go, and which is free, and then you can see whatever I post for free on Patreon. That's how Patreon works. It's a choice if you want to support a creator, or if they're selling you content or something like that. But we can also use that as a platform to store media that we can't put anywhere else. Number one, I can't put documents on YouTube. There's no function for that. And number two, you cannot put any manifestos or any videos or anything from somebody who commits that type of crime on YouTube without getting your channel taken down. So it's impossible for me to put the manifesto, which I have. It's impossible for me to put the horrible videos. They're not violent, but just like bad videos that this guy is playing with guns and doing all the weird things he's doing. Really weird videos, very interesting to watch, to get into the mind of this psychopath. I can't put those on YouTube without saying goodbye to my channel and you guys never seeing me again. The only place I can put it is on Patreon, and you better believe it's free. You do not have to pay me a dime to go and check that out, all right? That's public information. I'd never put it behind a paywall, all right? So definitely go sign up to the Patreon, check it out for free. All right, before we jump back into this, Waffles Biscuits with a $9.99 super says, question, I thought all trash in landfills get crushed or compacted, but have sensors to detect a human. Is that not true? That's not true. It's not true. Definitely not true. And probably I've never heard of sensors to detect humans, but in like affluent communities, like not affluent, but like in rich cities, maybe they do that, but that's not some law that's in effect. And a lot of landfills do not crush their waste. I don't even think New York waste get crushed. They just load that in. The only thing that gets crushed that I know about is recyclables. Like when they're putting together recyclables and stuff like bottles and metals and stuff like that. Regular trash is just dumped and pushed into mounds and buried with dirt. That's basically what they do. So anyway, let's keep going. Let's do it. Ashley Banfield again. News Nation.
Rebecca Haro told police that their 7-month-old son, Emmanuel, had been kidnapped by an unknown and unidentifiable attacker who knocked Rebecca out in the parking lot of a sporting goods store. Yeah, right. which is a terrifying story that caught the attention of the nation, right? Especially when authorities in Riverside, California called it BS. As you probably know, the Haros are both now charged with murder in their son Emmanuel's disappearance. They're also charged with lying, not to us, but to the police, because that is a crime. And 2 weeks later, there's still no trace of baby Emmanuel, who police now say may have been killed as early as August 5th. And through it all, both of these suspects remarkably cannot seem to stop telling stories. Last weekend, Rebecca gave a jailhouse interview professing the couple's innocence and declaring Jake a good dad who would never hurt a baby. Though, as we all know, he did hurt a baby, almost killed her. In 2018, he sent his own 10-week-old daughter to the hospital with life-altering injuries. She's now 7 and has been unable to feed herself or look after herself ever since. And now it's apparently Jake's turn to talk to a reporter from jail. A different jail than Rebecca's for sure, but undoubtedly he's flouting the same advice that her lawyer must have given her, which is, don't talk to anyone but me. You're in trouble. In Jake's interview, he didn't specifically declare himself innocent, but he did say he was being, quote, completely cooperative with investigators. I think that part, that's in the eye of the beholder. But he stated flat out to the reporter, and I quote, Rebecca is innocent. She loves her children. He said the DA's theory that baby Emmanuel suffered long-term abuse that led to his death, not true at all, quote unquote, not true at all. But he didn't offer any new accounts of where his son might be or where his son's remains might be to that reporter, that is. To other people, he's told at least 2 different stories.
All right, real quick, want to just address some super chats. 99 cents from Nina Drew. Big shout out to you. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. Deborah Mason with a 1.9 super chat says, if Rebecca gets off, she can send Jake money. Yeah, I think she could do that, definitely. Deborah sent that twice, so thank you so much for supporting the channel, Deborah. Janet Mason says, Brian is a good one. We already covered that one. Let's scroll down a little bit. And Art Decourse says, with a $5 super chat, says, former deputy sheriff, we do not use run-of-the-mill citizens for undercover work. Once again, $5 super chat says the same thing. Former deputy sheriff, we do not use run-of-the-mill citizens for undercover work. I don't believe I said that, but certainly she has given us her inside information as a former deputy sheriff, that they don't use run-of-the-mill people for undercover work. That is definitely a liability to do that. Yeah, you definitely want to put a trained person in there to make that happen. I've heard of some exceptions. I can't talk about it though, because this is confidential information, but there are exceptions. So of course, this deputy sheriff is talking about her own agency's policy, but policies do differ from different agencies. I don't know the policy of Riverside County or San Bernardino sheriffs, but it is probably not a smart thing to do to use regular civilians. But in Perkins operations, they do sometimes use other inmates, inmate informants. In fact, I've never heard of a Perkins operation that was done by an undercover cop. I've never partook in a Perkins operation, by the way, but every time I've seen it happen down south or out west, it's always been another inmate who has gotten that information from the killer. So this is a first for me that they actually had an undercover cop inside of the county jail doing a Perkins operation. I don't know. What do I know? Anyway, Claudia with a $5 super says he might have buried him near or in his house, HS, I guess he meant house. He seemed like talking about playing there. No one would think of looking there, a landmark for him. I don't know what HS is. That high school? High schools, I think she's probably saying. It's possible. There's no such thing as a bad theory, because we certainly don't know. It's possible. Big shout out to you, Claudia. Thank you so much for your super chat. All right, let's keep going.
Source tells News Nation that after the Haros were arrested, Jake told the police that he rolled over on Emmanuel while he was sleeping, accidentally killing the baby, and then, inexplicably, decided to just bury his son's body, you know, in the desert off a highway. Because when you have an accident in bed like that, you're going to just bury your beloved baby just in an unmarked grave somewhere off the highway. That's what we figure led to this arrest, right? And then, of course, Sunday's total boondoggle in the grass there, where an alleged child killer accompanies police on an hours-long search in a field alongside said freeway, Highway 60. Wouldn't you know it? This here search didn't turn up anything. Nothing. Weird, right? Because, like, they had cadaver dogs and everything, because if you had dropped that baby there, even if the wildlife had gotten to the baby, the cadaver dogs would have noticed something.
They would have.
And they didn't. And maybe that is because of the next story that Jake told us all. Our Brian Entin learned that while behind bars, Jake told a fake inmate, either a police officer or a civilian informant in disguise, that he was the one who, in fact, killed his own son and put the child's body in a trash can. It's what you call a Perkins operation, when you infiltrate the jail with a jailhouse snitch, another inmate, or an actual police officer dressed up as an inmate. And you just get the guy talking. They said that's what happened with Jake Haro. He just talked. That would complicate the search enormously, right? If what he said to this so-called inmate was true.
Right.
Especially if it happened 3 weeks ago.
That's true.
But the DA said just yesterday that he's got a pretty strong idea of where police should be looking for Emmanuel's body. And I say body because the police assume that child has been murdered, hence the murder charges. And as for that prior conviction for willful child cruelty, which left Jake's tiny victim permanently disabled, Jake told the reporter that he pleaded guilty because, and I quote, "I didn't have the money to go to trial. I didn't have the money to go to trial." He also said he was sick of court and that the judge knows I didn't do it. They just railroaded me. I was the fall guy, quote, unquote.
He was the fall guy. That's what he said. Hit that like button, please. Support the channel.
And that might just be his biggest lie of all. Because as we all know from cop shows, when they read you your Miranda rights, you're told that you have the right to an attorney. And if you cannot afford one, one will be provided to you.
Right.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our new...
All right, Chris Cuomo. All right, man. Listen, that's all I got for you guys today, man. This is crazy. I don't know who to believe. The whole point of this show was us trying to figure out, who do we believe, ladies and gentlemen? And I got to tell you, we went through a whole full show, and I'm no closer to the truth than I was before I started the show. I don't know who to believe, because we have a guy who has a reputation of being very accurate in Brian Entin, who's been around the true crime genre for a long time, working for mainstream media sources, covering big cases. On the other hand, he also had a former district attorney of Riverside County who's also corroborating. Let's not forget that either. We got to put that check in Brian's corner. It wasn't just Brian who was saying that. It was Brian and the former district attorney for Riverside County who were saying that they both independently got this information, that those two confessions were given. On the other hand, we have the sheriff's department, who's for both counties, Riverside and what's the other one? San Bernardino. Not true. The district attorney for Riverside said it's not true. Then we had the reporter who actually interviewed Jake and Rebecca. Not true. Both sides are professional people who are involved in this case in their own way and have connections to this case and roots in this case. And each side is saying something different. I guess we'll have to wait till court, ladies and gentlemen, because you best believe we will find out the truth. When this case starts going to court and we get discovery, if a Perkins operation was done, we will find out, because it will be in the paperwork. So I don't know what you guys want to do. I don't know what you guys want to believe, but you best believe that here, True Crime with Strategic, our position is trust, but verify. trust but verify. I'm not going off of anybody's reputation. I'm not going off of anybody's sweet face. I'm not going off of anybody's interesting mustache or their snazzy hair. I'm going off of the facts. I will wait and see what the court documents say because I don't know what to believe, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know what to believe. But anyway, guys, you guys are amazing. There's a super chat here I want to give some love to. We're at 909 likes with over 1,000 people watching the show. I'm pretty sure there's 90 people who could hit that like button and bring us to 1,000 subs. I mean, 1,000 likes rather, before we end this show. So we do appreciate you. We just want to get into the algorithm. It's the only reason why we're asking you to get into that algorithm. So let's go to some fan funding very quickly. Haley Soto 2005 with a $2.99 super sticker is giving me a really cool animated thumbs up, and we do appreciate you showing that love. All right, guys. Big shout out to everybody who joined us today. Thank you so much for rocking out with me on this late night live. It's 1:12 a.m. in the morning Eastern time, so it doesn't matter where you're at in this country, it's gonna be dark. And we do appreciate you. Angel Wings with a $20 super chat says, while we wait for the truth to be revealed, buy your kiddos ice cream. That's really kind of you, Angel Wings. And you know what? When people give me special requests, I'm obliged to actually fulfill it. So we will be getting some ice cream thanks to you and your generosity. You are awesome. You are appreciated. Guys, consider becoming members of True Crime and Strategic. We got a few members who joined us today, and we do appreciate it. We give exclusive content. We do exclusive live streams that never make it to the main show, only for the members. I've dropped a number of videos on the membership. Some are only available for a higher tier of membership. Most are available for everybody who's a member. You pick and choose what you can afford and what you decide to get down with. We also have a Patreon where we basically post things that we are not allowed to post on YouTube. That is really the point of the Patreon. There's so much I can't say on YouTube without incurring the wrath of the YouTube gods. So that's why I have a Patreon. So both of these platforms serve a different purpose. The members is for us to really get deep down in this case, for you to hear my inner thoughts and feelings about these cases. And the Patreon is for you to get me raw. If that's what you're looking for, Strategic Eyes Raw, you might want to join that Patreon. So I really appreciate you guys for supporting me. For those of you who support me on both platforms, for those of you who just support me here, you are appreciated. And for those of you who don't want to be a member of Patreon or can't afford it, I really just appreciate the fact that you watch my show, and you're just as important to me as anybody else. You're just as important to me because it's you who keep this show going. The fact that you're just willing to watch when I do a show and hit that thumbs up, you are appreciated. I can't ask for anything more from you. I give you options, but I can't ask for anything more than just watching the show and giving us that thumbs up. Lastly, we have another generous viewer who has gifted 5 free gift memberships to 5 lucky people. And the funny thing about these gift memberships is that they're at a mid-tier of the show. You can't gift member a 99-cent membership. If that was the case, I'd just give 100 free memberships. I'll do some overtime on the day job and just buy $100 worth of memberships, just give it to you guys. Like, yo, congratulations, guys. Unfortunately, that's not how it works. So 5 gift membership costs quite a bit of money. And the people who've gotten that membership, you're at a higher tier. You're getting pretty much all the videos that I pull out. So it's very generous of Root Beer Floaty for giving that 5 gift membership. So for those of you who received it, please do say thank you to Root Beer Floaty. That was very generous of them for doing that. All right, we're about to get out of here. I see you guys on the next one. Strategic is out of here. I didn't even cue up the outro. I always do that, man. I always do it. All right. Outro's queued up now. I'll see you guys on the next one. Oh, well, we can't go just yet. Another 5 gift membership we just got from Reaction Buffet. Very kind of you. I like your icon. That's really cool. Reaction Buffet. Is that a YouTube channel or something like that? That's really awesome. I love the way that your what do you call it? Avatar? It's really cool. It stands out. But anyway, 5 gift membership from Reaction Buffet. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. And for those people who got that gift membership, make sure that you thank Reaction Buffet in the comment section. All right, I'm getting out of here now. All right. You guys are sneaky. Somebody else going to throw in a super chat or something and keep me here. All right, I got the outro queued up. It's ready to make that move. I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.